Here's a quote by Robert Adams that I find to be very inspirational, and it's totally true. And that is, no place is boring if you've had a good night's sleep and have a pocket full of unexposed film. And that is 100% true. So let's get right into this video. So we got two of these. We got Portra 800 and we have Gold 200. Yes, this is 120 film. This is 35mm film. But they do come in around similar prices, and for 5 rolls of this is $32. For 1 roll of this is $18. Now, granted, this is 36 exposures. This is 12 exposures each. But on 35, these are around, I think, $10 to $13 if I'm correct, for that 36 exposures. So start cheap. Start cheap. And why should you start cheap? You know why? Because it's going to be 10 times better when you're making so many mistakes. I exposed a full roll of Portra 400 when I first started in this little plastic camera, which I'll show in a second, and it sucked. So yeah. Start cheap, go with low budget films, and let's get right into the next thing. By the way, this is the first camera that I used. So the good thing if you are shooting 35mm film is that most of these cameras come with a light meter inside, so you can understand what f-stop to shoot at, whether it's f5.6, 11, 14, 16, whatever it may be. Or you can look into the Sunny 16 rule if you don't want to rely on that light meter. Perhaps maybe it's wrong or it just doesn't work. So I will leave a link below just if you want to check that out, but otherwise the light meter works perfectly fine unless there's some error in the camera. Developing here will get you prints like this. I just want to say this is not sponsored by the Darkroom at all. It's just that this is the place where I have been developing film for the past few years now. I did make a switch over from a lab in New Hampshire. They just charged a little bit too much for me, and it was just a pretty decent shift in price. So the Darkroom in California, even though it takes a little bit longer being on the East Coast, 100% worth it. If you want to start with a camera, choose this one. That one's going to be a little bit too difficult. This one's always broken no matter where I find it. I found it at a garage sale. It sucks right now. I wish I could have a real one because that's a sick camera. That one, another garage sale. Kind of works, I think. But we don't want that either. If you really want to start simple, just go with this. This or a disposable that isn't reusable, so you never have to load film in it. Alright, so one of the best things that I learned from a film photography chat is to always overexpose your film by its shutter speed. Now, let's take this example of the Cinestill 400D that you just saw. If I were shooting a box speed of 400, so ISO 400, similar to the Cinestill 400D, I would be shooting it at 1/200th just so I could get a little bit of overexposure. And with that, here are some shots just to show you some examples, and then we'll get right into the next thing. So we got medium format and we got 35 millimeter. Now, which would be the best one to start off with? Honestly, it's the 35. Medium format is definitely a little bit more difficult to get into, in my opinion, and 35 millimeter is just a lot easier to get into. The mistakes aren't as costly. You only get 12 shots on this, you're going to get 36 on this. So it's more likely that you will get at least a few decent shots out of this with 36 exposures versus the 12 exposures on this. So this camera keeps coming into this. You know why? Because it is the worst camera I have ever shot with. It is extremely plastic, and let's see. This is the inside of it, which isn't actually that bad. But I ended up exposing an entire roll of Portra 400 when I first shot on this thing, and one of my friends decided he would develop it himself. I think he lives out in California, so he developed it anyways, and you should definitely send in film even if you make a mistake, and I will show you those photos now. So there's a reference manual that I picked up when I wanted to get into film and I never did for like 2 years later, which in hindsight that was probably a good thing because I was still really honing in on my craft. And now I understand it a lot better, and the focusing for a film camera, there's going to be a little circle and there's like a half in it, and if it's not focused in, there's going to be part of that image, or what you're seeing through the viewfinder, is going to be like shifted to the left or the right in the bottom half, so it won't line up. If it's focused, everything is lined up, so you won't have to worry. So that is really, really important, and I will put that reference manual below just if you want to check it out on Amazon or any of the bookshops, because it is really, really a great guide. Alright, that wraps it up. And thank you so much if you stayed for the entire video, you just wanted to check out the images, any of that. So really, really appreciative. And thank you. Subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, or like this video, and I will see you in the next one.